which would be somewhere in the realm of between Jewish thought or Jewish outlook, more homiletic, non-halachic literature. And one of the things that people in our generation especially, but I think it was all generations, deal with, what people like to deal with, is the future. Sometimes the future could be understood on the basis of a proper understanding of the present and the true analysis of the past. And here we come to the question of Moshiach. Moshiach is a very, very, I would say even a general term, although we believe that Moshiach refers to a certain human being that will lead the Jewish people in the process of the final redemption, to bring the present materialistic world to its more perfect situation. That's what Moshiach is for. And I even said once, the word Moshiach has in it the letters of Yismach, or Yisamach, or Yisameach, which means He will make happy, He will be happy, we will be happy with Him. Because the Talmud tells us, En simcha ka'atarat hasfekot. There is no happiness like the happiness of getting out of doubt. And I believe that's the main reason so many people are so interested to understand where we're going to, what direction. They're not satisfied with just, Hashem told us to keep the Torah and mitzvot and finished. You open the Shulchan Aruch. How do I wash my hands in the morning? How do I daven? How do I learn? How do I go to sleep at night? How do I eat? How do I act with my fellow man in society? How do I act in my family? What's incumbent on me today? And that's it. Who cares what will be tomorrow? It's not our, I would say, responsibility to know what will be. There's no mitzvah in the Torah to know what will be. Actually, there might even be a avera to try and know what will be. As the Pasuk says, Tomim tiyeh im Hashem Elokecha. The word tamim could be translated in many ways, but in the context of that mitzvah, as Rashi explains on the Pasuk, don't try and research the future. Just do as you're told, and you'll be a perfect Jew. And ultimately that will bring the Geula, but that's not your job, to bring the Geula. It's not our job. It doesn't say in Shulchan Aruch, or in the 613 mitzvahs that we have already, there's no mitzvah, try and bring Mashiach. There's no such mitzvah. There's a mitzvah to believe that He can come any minute. There's no mitzvah to bring Him. And there's no mitzvah to know who He is, when He will come and how He will come. So why are we learning about it? Very simple reason. Hashem sends us nisyonot, confrontations and challenges. And the Gemara and the Mishnah even, the end of Sotah, discusses what challenges will face the Jewish people at the end of time, towards the final redemption. So, here comes in many Ma'amori Chazal, sayings of our sages of old regarding what will be, how will be when Mashiach comes. Because we have to understand also that the redemption isn't a mere change of the present to the future, but rather a correction of the world to its initial beginning, the way Hashem created it, until Adam Rishon sinned. That's the idea of Geula. It's putting right the wrongs of the human race throughout the ages. That's what Mashiach is. That's what the final redemption is. And here Rav Dessler, in his 5th volume of Michtav Eliyahu, page 307, talks of the various challenges that will take place in the time of Ikved de Mashiach. You all know what Ikved de Mashiach is. The footsteps of Messiah. And that's a more Haredi term for today, rather than using the term Atchalta de Geula, the beginning of the redemption. It means more, we are not yet in the actual process of the Geula. That's the way many people would like to see it, but according to the more Haredi outlook, we are not in that final stage yet. We are now in the stages of Ikved HaMoshiach, which means the footsteps of Moshiach. What's that mean? We are in that time called Chevlei Moshiach. We are now experiencing the leading steps towards Moshiach, but not in the final. Whatever that means, it's all. There are many Kabbalistic terms that I myself don't understand so much, but they are brought in Sforim. And one thing is that at the end of the Mishnah in Sotah, one of the things that will take place before Mashiach comes is Chutz B'Yazge, the freshness, as they say, fresh. That means Chutzpah will grow, Chutzpah will grow, people will be brazen against their parents, against their teachers. There'll be no respect for the older people. There'll be no respect at all. People will lose any concept of courtesy and politeness, even worse, immorality. And the great Amorahites, as the Gemara in Sanhedrin cites, prayed for Mashiach, but I don't want to be there. Mashiach should come, but I don't want to see him. Why? We won't be able to withstand the terrible trials and tribulations that will come about when Mashiach comes. What is the purpose of these trials and tribulations or confrontations? Another question is asked. The story of Adam in the Garden of Eden that could not withstand the challenge, and he ate from the tree of knowledge. What was he punished with? With being expelled from paradise and given the difficulties of life, of this world. What curse was Adam given? Bezeat apecha tochal lachem. The sweat of your brow you shall eat bread. That's the battle of life ever since mankind knows about it. That's the battle of life. And that work, that the person has to earn a living by working hard and still believe totally and trust in Hashem, that situation is a difficult one, and we have to explain it. That means if Adam could not withstand the temptation of the tree of knowledge, how can he withstand the temptation of living in the materialistic world we live in today? So he was expelled from paradise. But that didn't correct him. Usually if someone is punished in a sensible way, you try and rehabilitate, you try and correct him. like the American prisons, what they're called? No. Correctional
facilities.
That's it. That's the true word. In other words, we don't see any correctional process with expelling Adam from paradise. On the contrary, he couldn't withstand the nisayon, the challenge of eating from the tree, when he was in paradise in a very spiritual setting. So why do you go and kick him out and put him in a worse situation? Even more temptation. It's like someone robbed the bank and you put him in correctional facility where?
The bank.
In the bank. Is that the place to put him? No.
With no money.
No, with money.
No money.
Without money, maybe that will correct his taiva for money.
Yeah.
You put him, so you take Adam Rishon out of Gan Eden, where he could hardly have any connection with the material world, and that connection with the material world he failed. He took from the tree of knowledge, and then you put him in this world, which is one big place where it's impossible. It's from the bank. Anyway, you see, that's Olam Hazeh. You're trying to learn, it's impossible. The bank, it's part of life. So how could Adam or Rishon withstand the nisayon of this world? And how is Hashem correcting it? So Rav Dessler goes on to explain. It is known in medicine that a healthy person sometimes takes some injections, or in America shots. For what purpose? For immuning it. That means they put some certain materials in the body, in the blood, and those materials have in them some elements of a certain sickness, and that will bring about some kind of battle between the cells or the germs of those bacteria that cause sickness, and the body will learn to fight them in the way that if Chas v'Sholem is faced with those very bacteria or those very germs that might attack him, the body will be immune. That's the way, I think, until today, the medical world prevents some sicknesses. Now, in the spiritual realm, or two, sometimes, occasionally, Hashem has to give us these materialistic shots in the time when a person is good with his Yetzer Tov, his good inclinations are working well, and then if Chas v'Sholem, the evil inclination tries to overcome him, he will be ready for the fight. Therefore, Adam Rishon was put in a materialistic situation. And Rav Dessler brings this analogy to explain the various challenges of the time before Mashiach. That battle of those more materialistic or evil elements right before Mashiach comes will help Am Yisrael overcome all those trials and tribulations, and hence bring Mashiach. That's one aspect. Another aspect is sometimes the way to achieve or attain high levels of spirituality is by looking at the opposite. Yeah? The mirror. Sometimes you look at the negative and you understand the positive even better. As it says in the Pasuk, "V'shaftemu u'yitem ben tzadik la'rasha u'ben ben oved elakim lelo avado." It's a Pasuk in Yeshayahu. You will have the chance to differentiate between the righteous and the evil, and you can never really learn and understand yourself properly if you don't really dig deep into yourself and understand your various other inclinations. And that's maybe, according to Rav Dessler, the explanation of the evil stages, where the evil elements maybe wake up in a higher degree before Mashiach comes. interesting thing is now, he goes into Hashgacha Protis. Hashgacha Protis means the divine providence of every detail. And that's something unique to the Jewish philosophy. And the Rambam, in Moreh Nevuchim, in the Guide to Perplexed, says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't really have Hashgacha Pratit on animals, but that's a mistake, he says, because everything in this world is va'atom b'chayes kulon. Every fly that flies in the room, and every little iota of everything in this world is all from Ratzon Hashem. So he explains. This is a bit subtle, and I won't go into the whole thing, but he says there is Hashgacha Klolis and Hashgacha Protis. There's general divine providence and private, or detailed, I would say. If someone worships Hashem lishmo, if someone serves Hashem, he's on a different level of divine providence than someone that doesn't serve Hashem at all. And what exactly the difference is, I cannot understand or explain, but it's a bit in a sense of, and that's the way the Sforno explains it, like a person who's asleep and a person who's awake. A person who's asleep, his body functions and works, but his consciousness is a bit of a lower level. And the person who's awake and alert, and in a sense, if a person's connected to Hashem, he serves Hashem, that connection to Hashem is on a very alert level, and the consciousness is, in a sense, connected to Hashem on a stronger level than someone who's sleeping. And he actually compares the person who isn't worshipping Hashem to someone who's asleep. So everything is sleeping, and it's the Hashgacha Protis is on a lower level. Now,
can I ask you a question?
yes, with pleasure.
Okay, so yesterday your father, Rosh Hashiva, was talking about how so he says the environment that we're in is actually, some scientists actually stated, or some people say, it actually could be considered a spacecraft.
Yeah.
And other scientific experts say no, it's a world. And so you mentioned what is a correctional facility, and I'm assuming you're asking that in order for us to get a context of what type of place we're living in.
Yeah.
But if we're living in a world, there's a completely different, in my opinion, there's a completely different outlook on life than if we're living in a spacecraft, for example. For all intents and purposes, just for an example, a spacecraft. So one is unlimited and one is limited. How does one identify what is truth in that? Because if somebody were to wake up in the morning and say, okay, I'm waking up in a whole new world, then you think that anything is possible. If someone's thinking, oh, we're just in a small speck in a spacecraft, then the world is insignificant, then everything is insignificant. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, only if you look at the physical limits. But if you understand that the spiritual world is so vast and so massive that you can't even fathom its size or limits or physical limits. And that's a world that everything you do is so significant that you have no idea. Every word you say, as the Nefesh HaChaim says, every word can create worlds and destroy worlds. That's part of being in this world, is the limited, the neshama is limited within the realms of the body, and the body is limited within the realms of this, whatever spaceship, as you call it, the world,
or box,
or whatever. But in the spiritual realm, it's so significant and so big that because we are physical beings, we can't really understand how big it is. But really, the significance is unbelievable, amazing. As we know that in Kabbalistic terms, Hashem created the world with words. Basoro Ma'amoros Nivrolim, with words, with the alphabet. These are symbolic things, but the Kabbalistic symbolism can give us an idea of the spiritual realm. How every word you say, and that's the power of a human being, the word, because animals can't speak. And obviously flora and fauna can't speak, and obviously. And
so why do we not look at the animals and see what kind of things we should correct in ourselves?
We do. That's Shlomo Melech says we learn from animals to correct ourselves. But
I mean, if you think about
the power of the word is the whole differentiation between the neshama, the human being that has a neshama, and the animals that don't. They just have a nefesh. So the words are so significant, and that's Vayipach ba'apo v'ruach chaim, when Hashem breathed life into the human being. He gave him, as the Targum Onkelos says, Ruach Mamalo, he gave him the power of speech. That's actually what defines
the
human being. The humans is the speech, the power of speaking.
The animals don't speak at all.
They have their language, but it's not.
I mean, we've been on the planet for a lot less time than the animals. They must have adapted to our language.
We don't know. I don't know that.
We can't ask them.
Yeah. So, going back to what the human being is, if people think their whole life is this world, the life in this world, and to an extent where people who are a bit more scientifically inclined and say, okay, you say to a person, just a minute, the person is only his physical blood and flesh and cells, and that's the human being. Where's the neshama? No, don't know neshama. So how do you speak, how do you talk? That's from the brain. And your thoughts, that's your brain. And if your brain gets lost, so the whole human being is gone. So the whole personality, the whole everything, his memories, his thoughts, the whole human being, that's gone. That's where they cremate themselves. I don't think there's anything there. But we believe that the neshama stays forever. And through doing mitzvahs, there is eternity. As Chazal say, even before a person's born, in his mother's womb, the embryo, the person in the mother's womb, he can oversee from the end of the world to the other end. That means he can fathom, he has a soga, he understands the whole idea of the creation. And he learns the whole Torah. And that can't be from the brain, because the brain isn't developed yet. That's from the neshama. So we say, the neshama, not only the neshama sits in the brain, that's true, we say this when we put on tefillin. And neshama shebemoichi. The neshama sits in the brain, that's the place. But the neshama exists before the body. But the minute the person's born, his neshama is limited. On the contrary, before the person's born, the neshama is unlimited. The minute it is confined into his body, it confines all his senses and his seichel. And he only understands things through its external images. And what's left from the neshama itself, says Rav Dessler, that's the inner knowledge and our own ego, our own personality, and our choice of good and bad. So, the body, in a sense, blocks off those pipes, as it were, of the internal conscious. And when a person passes away from this world, he goes back to his neshama, to the unlimited neshama, because the neshama goes out of the confines of the body. That means the brain's mission or function is to sift through all the understandings that go into ourselves through the seichel, and give us the ability of free choice. According to this, not only that the brain doesn't shut down the neshama, on the contrary, the brain, when it stops functioning, actually releases the neshama from its confines. It gives the neshama its final vast abilities that it was confined to through the brain. The Rav Dessler gives an interesting analogy: someone that brings a TV set to the jungle and shows it to a native tribe in the jungle, never seen a TV in their lives. So the elders of the tribe confer, they get together and start discussing, what is this box? And they decide it's a terrible new witchcraft they can't even handle. They want to break it. And they want to kill those little people dancing inside the pictures. They don't understand that those scenes in the TV box come from waves of whatever, radio waves, that go in the air from one end of the world to the next world. And that they can't get rid of the waves. They can break the tool, the TV, but they can't get rid of the radio waves. And it says the same thing. The people who think that because the brain is dead or doesn't work, the whole spiritual entity is lost, are similar to those witchcraft or those primitive tribes that think we'll get rid of the TV set, so we'll get rid of those little people dancing. Yes?
So it's funny you talked about televisions. There was once a study I saw, and they went to an island. There's probably, I'm sure to this day, there's untouched islands in native tribes.
Yeah.
And they've gone over there, scientists have gone over there, and did a study. They put a sailboat in front of these tribes. They've never seen it before, to see what would happen. And I think under certain circumstances, they were blinded to it. They were blinded to it. And then when somebody mentioned what it was and described to them, it was standing still. So it almost is like when we're looking at something, there's an image, but we have to actually understand what the image is and how it works in order for it to process. And only after they left, it started moving again. So that means that our mind controls what is actually happening in physicality, and we need more than one person in order.
Energy or mind.
And so you have a group of people that have never seen something in the world. To them, it doesn't exist because it's not there in their eyes. It's not in their television sets. Only when the television set is on and has somebody to tell them that's what it is, and they can actually see it. That's how the world works.
Yeah. מעניין. But what he says is something very important. When our neshama goes into the body and loses many elements of its abilities, as we said before, just the ego, the human being has its ego and it has its free choice. Those things are still there from the neshama, but really they're only there in a potential way. Because in other words, they are there to be worked on so that when the neshama leaves the body, it can go back to its final glory. Because what happens is, when the neshama in the body, when a person doesn't work on himself, when he's alive, through learning Torah and doing mitzvahs, and connecting himself to the spiritual eternal world, when a person passes away, the neshama is affected by the way he lived in this world. And he actually, the task or the mission of a person in this world is to reconnect his neshama to its final ability. And that's what explains that when a person is only when a person is in this world, he can buy is Olam Haba, is eternity with no limits. You can't do it after a person passes away, the neshama can't be changed. It's the way it is. That's what we say every morning. In the Lukai neshama shenusata b'tohori. The neshama you gave me is pure. Ato v'ros ato yitzarto ato nefachta bi, ato mushamo b'kirbi, and so forth. That's the bracha. So the neshama is pure. Then we in this world have the ability to keep it pure, and then after a person passes away it goes back to where it was. But if a person doesn't do that, then he doesn't get that. That's one thing he talks about. And yeah, that's all that part. Now what happens is also, this he talks about also, how the imagination of a person mixes him up. He says like this. Some people say that emunah, faith in Hashem, is illusion. Why does a person come to emunah? Some realistic people say it's because I'm trying to get something and it doesn't work, so I say I have emunah. But what does reality mean? We say there's realistic people, non-realistic. The term reality is also relative. Every person has his own reality. Because also what can be tested by all the five senses, it's only the way I test it on myself. If a person goes in the desert and imagines he sees an oasis of fruit and trees and water, and he'll only find out when he gets to the actual place, the Fata Morgana, yeah? When he gets to it, he notices he made a mistake. But when he sees it, he sees it. It's relative. So he, with his eyes, he thinks it's reality. All our understandings are relative to ourselves. So, let's say if a person feels he needs something. He needs a nice new car. You'll tell him it's your imagination, you don't really need it. But for him, it is a need. And the spiritual level also is relative to his level in Ruchnius. If a person feels a need to dedicate himself to learning, let's say, and people tell him you're not realistic, but he can feel that's his need. So he says like this. He brings an example from if a person can maybe sometimes use a certain medicine or drug to make him have certain imaginations that will satisfy his aspirations. The person would do it, and then that's what he would feel. He would see that. So he says the people that say we're only realistic concerning Ruchnius, sometimes they're also relative and they don't really know the truth. He says that the word dimyon, illusion, in the Oxford Dictionary, it says something that a person imagines for himself, of not on his own body but from the outside. A person that feels something from his own internal feeling, That isn't illusion. Interesting. So if a person is connected to his spirituality, and it comes instead of certain realistic needs, that's what those realistic people say. He says it's not true. Because money and honor and all those things are also spiritual. If a person enjoys art or enjoys music, obviously you won't say that's not realistic. It's also realistic. And that's the way he explains the need for this connecting to the spiritual world is also a very realistic need. So it's very deep things in Rav Dessler about Emunah also. Because Emunah is also the word faith. Ne'emanut is loyalty. Loyalty and faith in Hebrew come from the same root. Emunah and Ne'emanut. That's what we say Amen on it, every bracha. What does Ne'emanut mean? That power of internal strength is loyalty. When a person creates a bond with his friend and is totally loyal, devoted, that's an inner strength of truth and also responsibility, conscience. The loyal person will stand strong against any external force that will try and move him from his loyalty. And a person who is also ne'eman, ne'eman also means in Hebrew, a person who is given a deposit. He's supposed to look after something, a deposit, let's say. He's a ne'eman, he's a trust. That's why the word trust means a trust, a foundation. Why is it called a trust? A person was given money to look after it for certain purposes. Usually for social, stock or any other purposes. That's called a ne'eman, a ne'emanut. Ne'eman, a board of trustees. What's a board of trustees? They're in charge of distributing scholarships. It's not their money, it was given to them for a person. This is trust. So when a person has loyalty and is trusted to take care of something, he has to hold it till the end. That's what faith is. That's what Emunah is. Because to understand there is Hashem is obvious. For that we don't need Emunah. The idea is that the Emunah has to be to an extent that the person withstands everything in the world and doesn't wither away from his trust, being a trustee on his bond with Hashem. That's why Boch HaBabkuk ve'Midon Alach is the end of Gemara Makras. The Gemara has a whole list of Rabbon and Vamiroim that say, out of the 613 mitzvahs, what's the most important one? There's a whole list. One says 11, one says 12, one says this. Habakkuk, the Navi, comes and gives one mitzvah of Emunah. V'tzadik ve'emunato yichyeh. The righteous lives with his Emunah. What's the Emunah? Very interesting. One of the Rishonim explains, which Emunah is this? Emunah in Hashem? No, he says it's not the Emunah in Hashem. It's the Emunah of the Gemara in Shabbos that says when a person comes to the next world, they ask him 3 questions. Did you set time for learning Torah? Did you wait for the final redemption? And the third one, Nososov Nosato be'emunah. Did you, actually that's the first one, did you handle business honestly? Nasat be'emunah. Be'emunah means we are honest in business. What's that mean? It means that if a person is honest in business, he's trustworthy. If he creates a bond with someone, he can be trusted, he's loyal. And that is exactly what we mean by Emunah in Hashem. If you have a bond with Hashem, you're Yid, you're Jew, you are entrusted to keep the mitzvahs and be connected to Hashem and stick to that bond, never mind what happens. And that is the ne'emanut, the loyalty and devotion to be a trustee, and that is reflected correctly in the person who has strong emunah in Hashem. And there is no border to this. This goes to the most minute details, like we see with Avraham Avinu, with Moshe Rabbeinu. Anyway, so thank you very much, and
Thank you very
giving
much.
me the opportunity to learn a bit of important things on Emunah and Geula. We should be Zocha, Mashiach should come very quick. עכשיו ממש, Mashiach now. Thank you very much.